It is my pleasure to be here. And I was thinking about this topic, and the theme of this conference is so important to the context of so many things that we're dealing with today. And DEI is no exception. So whether or not you call it DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, D&I, B&D, it doesn't really matter. Think about the past 18 months or so in the field of this area, and think about how it could not be important and a more relevant time for us to be thinking about leading to repair. It is much more relevant in this space than ever than what we've actually seen in the past. And so as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, we've been dealing with a lot of revolving issues this last probably 18 months or so, right? So we've experienced a global pandemic, political elections, numerous social justice issues like Black Lives Matter, Asian hate, anti-Semitism, religion issues. And our companies are also experiencing issues to do with attrition, belonging, representation, culture. All of these things are really relevant in terms of the space of DEI right now. And the interesting thing is that many of us are dealing with many of these issues all at the same time, adding to the complexity of what we're dealing with. And to complicate addressing these difficult issues, we're dealing with multiple and in many cases diverging opinions and perspectives on all of these topics. So is it Black Lives Matter or all lives matter? Get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. Defund the police, increase police funding. Change election laws, don't change election laws. Return to work, work from home forever. As you can see, these complexities are difficult and they're all falling into this space of DEI. Regardless of what difficult conversations we're having, for every pro, there's an opposing con. And on top of all this, of course, we're battling things like fatigue and stress and anxiety and loss and mental health. Well, of course, we're tired, right? So if there was ever a time when we needed repairing, particularly in this space, it's now. And not only is the time now, we need to act with the sense of urgency. So whether you agree or not, the world is changing. We have to lead in a different way, and how we lead and engage is changing. And expectations from our employees, our employers, those we interact with are actually evolving. So the question then becomes, how are we going to do this, and what do we need to do differently? I believe we need to lean into leading a bit more with intentionality. And that means a lot of different things, and I'll cover a few, but it's no longer just about making the numbers or rolling out a new product. We have to expand our minds and recognize that how we led in the past, only focused on the bottom line, isn't enough anymore. We have to combine what we call the head, the heart, and the hands into our leadership toolkit. What I mean by this is there's an intellectual, an emotional, and an active realm to how we must lead and how we must lead differently. The head is the intellectual part, right? We need to make sure we are understanding the complexity of issues and situations that arise for our employees on a daily basis. We need to understand that each situation is different. Each of us are going through our own challenges in reference to everything that's going on. And so the solutions that we need to come up with may need to be varied and different based on the needs of the people that you're dealing with. The pandemic, as an example, raised different issues for different types of people. If you were single, you may have been dealing with issues of isolation. If you have school-age children, you had to instantly become a teacher, not to mention those who are single parents dealing with multiple school-age children all at the same time, all trying to get them on the internet and all trying to not impact the social element that they were stepping into the school place with. And so, if you were a caregiver, you may have had to deal with different stresses and challenges. As a leader, you now have to understand and help employees through all of these complexities. That no longer is an option in terms of the expectation that your employees are actually bringing to the workplace. The heart is the emotional intelligence part of leadership. Empathy and compassion have become two of the biggest new words in how leaders must show up differently. You have to be aware of the extra emotional capital that employees are showing up with at work, because all of these social issues that we used to think we didn't need to talk about in the workplace, we are now having to talk about in the workplace because our employees are actually demanding that. So given the past year or so, leading from a place of empathy and compassion and respect for the varying experiences that people are dealing with really has become extremely important and necessary. And let's not forget about forgiveness. As you were just talking about forgiveness a few minutes ago, but we have to also be really forgiving in this space. No one is perfect. No one has all the answers. And so this notion of a growth mindset and learning and sharing and helping each other through this is a new way in which we all need to come together and lead. Lastly, but not least, is about the hands. And this is about how we need to take action. We need to lead by example, to not just care about a situation, but to be an active participant in creating change for that situation as well. It's kind of like moving from allyship and just caring about the situations of other groups into advocacy, where we're actually spurring that action for people to actually create that change. All of these things require leading in a very intentional and different way. And so our employees are often looking for leaders that they can follow, leaders who we say walk the walk and talk the talk, those who are not afraid to challenge status quo and have those really difficult conversations around things like race and politics in the workplace, because we know that those things are actually impacting our employees and they're taking up their mind share, and it's impacting productivity in the workplace as well. And those who will get engaged and not tell you what to do. We're looking for leaders who will get engaged and not just tell you what to do, but that they're willing to actually show you how to do it as well. So when you put leadership principles together that include elements of the head, the heart, and the hands, you show up in a holistic way that enables you to lead from multiple vantage points, and that's necessary in today's world. One-dimensional leadership is a thing of the past. Leaders have to show up in ways in which they can bring calmness to the complexities that haunt the halls of the workplace today. So if there was ever a time where we needed to lead with intent to repair, it really is now. What I'll leave you with, and this is what my talk is really about, but it's about this notion of vibe, this notion that we have to step into the workplace valuing inclusion, belonging, and equity for all people. We can't say that we're valuing this for everyone and then only focus on a couple of communities. We have to understand that sometimes some communities need to be prioritized over others, but at the end of the day, you really do have to have this mindset that really focuses on the for all. And what I mean by that is, do you value not just diversity and diverse representation, but are you also thinking about the uniqueness that everybody brings into the workplace? How do you create this system of inclusion and how you want actions and behaviors to show up in the workplace? How are you thinking about belonging at the individual level to make sure that you get to the hearts and minds of everyone? And how do you also think about equity, not just equity from a compensation standpoint, but also things like equity, equitable access to people and opportunities? And if there's one thing that I would say about how we're looking at things today, looking at things from a point of intersectionality becomes really important, because what works for one may not work for another. And if you look at things only one-dimensionally, you may not be uncovering real experiences and barriers that may exist when you add multiple elements or multiple dimensions to someone's diversity. And so as we think about this, think about the data, think about the insights, think about the information that your employees can give you, and then then think about whether or not your efforts are including everyone, especially and including those who traditionally don't think that they are part of the diversity story. So how you embed things like DEI into your culture becomes extremely important. And not only that, when you think about things like VIBE, to value inclusion, belonging, and equity for all, it is everyone's responsibility. Everyone has to play a part in making sure that how that shows up. It's not just about the fact that I want to feel included, like I belong and like there's equity, but I want to make sure that others feel that coming from me as well. I truly believe that when you vibe, you create an environment in which all people can thrive. And when we all thrive, we all win. And so I want to thank you for your time today. I know that was quick. I know you're a little bit behind, but with that, I will go ahead and turn it back to Steve. And thank you so much for having me today.
Carin, on behalf of everybody on this call, thank you so, so much.
My
For
pleasure.
those of you who want to know a little bit more about Workday, I encourage you to go onto their website. Just 3 weeks ago, in proving that these folks walk the talk, Forbes magazine just named them one of the 10 best companies supporting healthy families and healthy communities. And I know Carin and her colleagues really practice that. Carin, we thank you. You follow a great history of somebody that we all know, a lot of us know, Greg Pryor. So we thank you and Greg and Workday for sharing those great ideas. Thank you. Everybody, round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Joel, I will turn it back to you.
Great, thanks, Steve. Getting a little feedback from someone. Thanks for that. Carin, absolutely wonderful. You are the first person to do our Leadership Forum talk this year, and actually it's a new component this year. So you have laid a foundation for the future of the forum, because we're going to do this more and more because people want those snackable, stackable, and shareable pieces of wisdom that you just offered us. So thank you. We hope to share your words with many, many more beyond just those that are present here today.